Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's make a lightning gravity die. I don't know what part of the country you guys are from or if you even live in the United States, but it's been crazy stormy around here lately. So I felt inspired to make a lightning die. To begin, I've turned my shirt inside out and I'm laying it out flat on my work table. I'm going to use a washable marker and draw a lightning bolt type shape going from one shoulder of the shirt to the opposite hem of the shirt. I guess technically you could do your lightning design going anywhere on the shirt. I mean, lightning does go just across the sky, but I've never tried that. I just do from the shoulder to the opposite hem. Once I have the design drawn on the shirt, I'm going to begin fan folding the shirt. I'm fan folding both the front side of the shirt and the back side of the shirt at the same time, so the design is going to be on both sides. As I'm fan folding the shirt, I'm trying to keep my fan folds about the same size and about the same height. Okay, I have my shirt fan folded and I have a pretty wide line that I'm going to try to tie with sinew. So as I wrap the sinew around this line and I begin to pull it, I'm going to use my hand and keep my hand flat against my sinew line to try to keep the shirt from buckling. When the lines are too long and you start to pull them really tight, they want to buckle or fold in on themselves, kind of like a taco folds. Once I pull my initial sinew line just a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and make a few more wraps of the sinew and continue trying to pull it tighter. I'm using sinew because I want a defined line for my lightning. And if I used rubber bands or if I used kite string, I would have a line, but it wouldn't be quite as defined. The wax coating on the sinew helps to keep some of the dye from going underneath the line. If you'll notice, my sinew broke on me, which happens sometimes when you pull too tight, and my design went ahead and just folded in half. So I'm going to go with it. I mean, it was a line, so I'm going to just let it fold in half and tie that folded line really tight. After I finished tying my sinew line, I went ahead and placed the shirt aside. By the time I got back to it, it was completely dry. It doesn't necessarily have to be though for this design. You can dye it when it's damp. I've chosen a couple kind of dark and stormy blues that I'm going to use for this design. I'm using cobalt blue from Dharma Trading Company and marine from Pro Chemical and Dye. There's a little bit of break in the storms, so I'm going to do this design outside. If you have a large enough space and you can do your setup inside, then that's great. But I like to do my gravity dies outside. I do them under the trees where the direct sun is not usually on the shirt. I'm using a drying rack and I'm placing my shirt over a couple of rungs in the drying rack so that it won't fall. Since the shirt is completely dry, I have some soda ash solution, which I have placed inside of a squirt bottle, and I'm going to gently mist the top of the shirt and the sides of the shirt. I want to encourage that dye to move, so I want to dampen this area a little bit. At the top of the screen is the top of the shirt, or the part of the shirt that goes into the neck. On that side of the shirt, I'm going to add the cobalt blue from Dharma Trading Company. On the other portion, or the lower portion of the shirt, I'm going to add the marine from Pro Chemical and Dye. I'm only adding the dye up close to the sinew line and then just a few inches down on either side. The purpose of this design is to add the dye on top and then let gravity pull the dye down through the shirt. Over the top of the dye, I'm going to add just a little bit of dry soda ash. I'm going to add quite a bit of ice to the top of this shirt, and I want to make sure when I add the ice to the shirt, it doesn't rinse out the initial soda ash that was already in the shirt. The shirt or the dye needs the soda ash to react properly with the dye so that it will bond with the fabric. I'm going to start out with a couple of pretty large chunks of ice right on top of this line. And I've found that the larger chunks of ice work better for the gravity dyes for me. Where I live, it gets pretty warm. I did this shirt the last of April and it was already over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So the larger chunks of ice tend to melt a little bit slower. As you can see from these photos, as the ice melts and the liquid runs through the dye in the shirt, it starts to wick or pull that dye down through the shirt. But this one batch of ice wasn't quite enough. The dye didn't move down far enough. So I went back and added another chunk of ice to the top of the dye. I couldn't get my ice chunk out of the container, so I just placed the container on top of the dye upside down. About this time of year, I start saving any kind of disposable container that I can use for ice, filling it up with water, and sticking them in my freezer to use for gravity dyes. After that container melted, you can see that my dye has gone pretty much down to the end or the edges of the fabric. It was about to storm again, so I took the shirt into my utility sink. And my utility sink has got two sides to it with kind of an area in the middle. So I just draped the shirt over the area in the middle like I had it draped over my drying rack and allowed it to process that way. That helps because it won't let it dry out quite as easily because it's not outside in the wind, and it still allows the dye to move down to the edges more if it wants to do that. I left the shirt for about 24 hours before I began rinsing it. And by the time the 24 hours was up, the shirt was almost totally dry. When a shirt dries with the dye in it, it means that the fabric quits reacting with the dye. In this case, that's fine because I've had the dye in the shirt long enough and the shirt was in a warm environment that was over 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and so my dye color still should end up being nice and vibrant. So I began rinsing the shirt in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied the shirt and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I find that blues are one of the hardest colors to get totally rinsed out of a shirt. So instead of just rinsing in hot water for a long time, I went ahead and ran some really hot water down in my utility sink, added a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent to the water, and just allowed the shirt to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I put the shirt along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine and I washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I have washed and dried the shirt and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this one looks really cool. I think it looks definitely stormy. I don't know if the line looks just more like a zigzag or if it actually looks like lightning, but I do like the design. And I like the two colors that I chose. Neither one of those colors have a whole lot of color splits in them, but I do think that they work really well together. And I like that little pop of green in the marine. I can also see the area of the design that was where I applied the dye. If you look down in that lower portion of the shirt on the lightning bolt, you'll see the dye is just a little bit darker in that area. I don't think it looks bad though, and I love the dye movement on this shirt. That's my favorite thing about gravity dyeing is wherever you place the dye, it's darker in that area, and then as you get further away from that line, the dye just kind of floats out or moves out to those outer areas and just feathers out there. I think it looks so cool. I don't know, it's just my favorite thing about gravity dyeing. Especially on this shirt, if you look up toward the shoulder, the blue shoulder, that almost looks like a really hard rain, how it's coming down, or water, how it's flowing out. I just think that's a really cool effect with gravity dyes. There's also one little dark flow of the marine or the green portion of the dye on the shirt, and it almost looks like a little branch off of the lightning. That was totally unexpected, but I think it's a cool effect on the shirt. So I don't know that it exactly looks like lightning, but I do think it looks really cool. But what do you guys think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.